Welcome back to the deep dive. Have you ever, read or heard a sentence and felt like it was doing two jobs at once?
What do you mean?
Like, there's the main thing it's saying, the core message, but then there's this other piece of information, almost like a little aside, just there, baked into the words somehow.
Yeah. Like a commentary track running alongside the main feature.
Exactly. Well, today we're digging into a pretty detailed academic work, actually, that focuses specifically on that kind of hidden layer in language.
Right. It's all about how meaning gets structured.
Yeah.
Going beyond just whether a sentence is true or false.
Our mission is to unpack this system. How does language sneak in these extra meanings the speaker seems committed to, even if they're not the main point?
It's a surprisingly systematic part of communication, often flying under the radar. This should give you a neat shortcut to understanding some complex linguistic ideas.
Okay, so let's get into it. The source we're looking at, Christopher Pott's work, really zooms in on one specific type of this layered meaning. It calls it conventional implicature, CI for short.
And it's not just a vague label. The definition is quite precise, built on 4 key properties that make CIs distinct.
4 properties. Let's break those down. What's the first one?
Okay, first, CIs are part of the conventional meaning of words. So they're attached to specific words or phrases by the rules of the language itself, not just inferred from context.
Got it. Like part of the dictionary definition almost?
Sort of, yeah, or the grammatical construction. Second, CIs are commitments. When a speaker uses a word that tries a CI, they are committing to the truth of that CI's content.
So it's not like a maybe or a hint. You say the word, you commit to the meaning.
Exactly. Which leads to number 3. These commitments are made by the speaker simply because they chose those specific words. The meaning comes bundled with the term.
Okay, conventional, commitment, speaker's choice. What's the 4th? This sounds like the crucial one.
It really is. 4th, CIs are logically and compositionally independent of what the source calls the at-issue meaning.
At-issue meaning, that's like the main point, the core assertion.
Precisely. The main thing the sentence is trying to establish or argue about. CIs operate separately from that.
And that's where it gets really interesting, right? This independence. It suggests CIs exist in like a parallel dimension of meaning.
That's a great way to put it. The source talks about multidimensional semantics. Think of it like 2 channels carrying information simultaneously within the same sentence. One channel has the main point, the other has the CI.
Okay, let's make this concrete. The source uses an example. Ed's claim, which is based on extensive research, is highly controversial.
Right. So what's the main point there? What's being asserted at issue?
Well, that Ed's claim is highly controversial. That seems to be the headline.
Exactly. Now, what about that bit in the middle, which is based on extensive research?
That feels like extra info. Important info, maybe, but not the main argument about the controversy itself.
Precisely. That's the conventional implicature. Triggered by that supplementary relative clause, set off by commas, the CI is de vase. The claim is based on extensive research. The speaker is committed to that being true.
Ah, I see. And by including that CI, the speaker subtly shapes how we view the main point, right? Like, this claim is controversial, but don't dismiss it out of hand because look at the research behind it.
Exactly. It guides the interpretation without being the core assertion. It adds this layer of speaker stance or background. And the source argues that we need a formal system, a logic, to really capture this separation and predict how these CIs behave. It's not just description, it's about explanation.
Okay, so this isn't just a theoretical quirk. Where else do we see these CIs popping up in normal language? Give us the evidence.
Oh, they're all over the place once you start looking. The source highlights supplements as prime examples.
Supplements. You mean those extra bits, often marked by commas that add details?
Yep, exactly those, like nominal appositives. Think of Ames, the former spy, is now behind bars.
Okay, main point. Ames is in jail.
Right, the at-issue entailment. But the former spy, that's a CI. The speaker is telling you, as a committed fact, that Ames is a former spy. It's background info, asserted on that second channel.
Makes sense. And supplementary relatives are similar, like Ames, who stole from the FBI, is now behind bars.
Same pattern. At issue. Ames is behind bars. CI. Ames stole from the FBI. Again, speaker commits to this fact, but it's separate from the main point about his current location.
And you mentioned as clauses, too.
Yeah, like Ames was, as the press reported, a successful spy. Main point. Ames was a successful spy. CI. The press reported this. Here, the CI tells you the source or basis for the main claim, according to the speaker.
So that comma intonation is often the key signal, isn't it? Or what the source calls a comma feature theoretically. It flags the information as being supplementary, as being a CI.
It's a very strong indicator, yeah. It marks it as separate from the main clause's core meaning, not integrated into the main assertion's truth conditions.
What other kinds of words or phrases carry these CIs?
Parenthetical adverbs are another big category. They often slip in the speaker's attitude.
Like starting a sentence with unfortunately or luckily.
Exactly. Those are speaker-oriented adverbs. Take unfortunately, luckily, Beck survived the descent. The main event is Beck surviving. The adverb adds the CI. The speaker thinks the survival was unfortunate or lucky. It's their take on it.
Right, a layer of judgment.
And the source has this great example. Unluckily, Willie luckily won the pool tournament.
Whoa, okay. Unluckily. Luckily.
Yeah. The first unluckily expresses the speaker's negative view of the whole situation, Willie winning. But the second, luckily, still conveys the CI that the speaker has a positive attitude towards Willie's win itself. Perhaps because Willie needed the money, even if the speaker didn't want him to win overall. That second CI survives, even inside the scope of the first one.
That really shows the independence, doesn't it? The attitude just punches through.
It does. Then there are topic-oriented adverbs too, like cleverly wisely, Beck started his descent. These comment more on the action in relation to some goal or standard.
Like judging the action rather than just the speaker's feeling about the outcome.
Kind of, yeah. Or commenting on a feature, like an example about a keyboard cover designed thoughtfully. The thoughtfulness is presented as a property of the design. A CI, separate from just describing the cover.
Okay, supplements, adverbs. What about expressives? Things like swear words or emotional language.
Ah, yes. Expressives are a fantastic window into CIs. They directly inject the speaker's feelings or attitude.
Like damn or friggin'. We use those all the time.
Exactly. Consider, I hate your damn dog. The at-issue assertion is, I hate your dog. The damn contributes a CI. The speaker feels strong, negative emotion, anger, frustration about the dog. It's conventionally understood. The speaker commits to feeling it right then, and it's separate from the hatred assertion itself.
Or my friggin' bike tire's flat again. Same deal. Frustration is the CI.
Yep. Or shut that blasted window. The command is to shut the window. The blasted adds the speaker's annoyance as a CI.
And epithets, like calling something the stupid thing.
Right. Look, at every Democrat advocating a proposal for reform says the stupid thing is worthwhile.
Okay, the main point is what the Democrats are saying about their proposals.
Correct. But the stupid thing, whose attitude is that?
That's the speaker's attitude bleeding through, isn't it? They think the proposals are stupid.
Precisely. It's a CI expressing the speaker's negative evaluation of the proposals, independent of what the Democrats themselves are saying. The speaker inserts their own commentary.
So putting it all together, these CIs aren't just random quirks. They're systematic ways we use language to add layers of commentary, attitude, background facts, things the speaker vouches for, but keeps separate from the main assertion, like running parallel tracks of information.
That's the core idea.
Mm-hmm.
And their unique behavior really sets them apart.
Right. This is where it gets even more distinct. You mentioned they behave differently from other kinds of non-main point meaning, like presuppositions. What's the key difference?
The most striking thing is their projection behavior. CIs are incredibly robust. They consistently project out of context that normally trap or modify other meanings.
Projection. That means the meaning survives even if it's inside a question or negation or a conditional if clause, right?
Exactly. Presuppositions often project out of those holes, like negation or questions. If I say, did John stop smoking? The presupposition John used to smoke still comes through.
Okay.
But CIs project even more stubbornly. They survive those holes and they project out of presupposition plugs, things like verbs of saying or believing, Ed thinks, Mary claims. Plugs usually block presuppositions from escaping.
Whoa, okay. So even if I report someone else's belief, the CI associated with my words still counts as my commitment.
That's the key finding. Take the example. Ed says that, as Sue predicted, it is raining.
Okay, Ed says it's raining. The as Sue predicted bit looks like the CI.
It is. Now notice it's inside the Ed says that part. But if you, the speaker, say this whole sentence, you are still committed to the truth of Sue predicted rain. That's why adding hashtag, but in fact, Sue didn't predict rain sounds like a contradiction. The CI projected out past, Ed says.
Even though it looks like it's part of what Ed is reporting.
Yeah, it maintains its status as a direct speaker commitment. Presuppositions or conversational implicatures often get interpreted as part of the reported content in such cases. CIs resist that.
And they resist being the main argument of operators, too. You mentioned Bush says the damn Republicans.
All right, Bush says the damn Republicans deserve public support. The damn clearly expresses the speaker's attitude, not Bush's reported attitude. The formal logic explains this as a type mismatch. The say verb wants a regular proposition as its argument, and the expressive CI meaning just isn't the right type to fit in there. It stays separate.
What about quantifiers like every student or some politician? How do CIs interact with those?
That's a subtle point, especially with epithets. Remember, every Democrat advocating a proposal says the stupid thing is worthwhile.
Yeah. Does that mean each Democrat thinks their own proposal is stupid?
The source argues no, not necessarily. It's not standard variable binding across the at issue and CI dimensions. Instead, the speaker's view that the proposals are stupid applies more generically to the whole set of proposals being discussed. It's the speaker's blanket attitude about that kind of thing, rather than being calculated individually for each Democrat.
So the CI remains independent, applying broadly to the category mentioned in the main clause.
But that supports the independence idea, yes. And tying back to speaker orientation, CIs are fundamentally the speaker's current commitment, not shared background knowledge like presuppositions often are. They're freshly asserted by the speaker on this secondary channel.
Which might explain why they feel harder to argue with directly. If someone says Ames, the former spy, challenging the former spy part feels like you're slightly derailing the conversation about him being behind bars.
Exactly. You can challenge it, but it feels different than challenging the main assertion. It's marked as commentary, not the primary topic up for debate.
Okay, this is fascinating stuff. You mentioned a formal system, LCI logic of conventional implicatures. Can we unpack the basics of that without getting too lost in the weeds?
We can try. The core idea is to build this multidimensionality right into the logic. It uses a type system where meanings have components for both the at-issue dimension and the CI dimension.
So, like, a meaning isn't just one thing, it's a pair of things. An at-issue meaning and a CI meaning.
Essentially, yes. Think of the meaning of a phrase as maybe a pair. At-issue content, CI content. And the logic has rules for how these pairs combine.
And there's a special rule for when a CI gets added.
Right, the CI application rule. This is crucial. When an expression carrying a CI combines with an at-issue meaning, the at-issue part just gets passed along unchanged, the CI part gets calculated and added into the CI dimension of the result.
The source had a visual analogy, right? Like pruning a tree.
Yeah, that's a great one. Imagine the semantic derivation as a tree structure. You can snip off the branch that calculates the CI meaning, and the main tree structure calculating the at-issue meaning remains perfectly intact and correct.
That really drives home the independence. They're built together but are structurally separable.
Exactly. And that comma feature we talked about. Semantically, it's treated as a function that takes an ordinary at-issue meaning and shifts it over into the CI dimension, ready to be added via that CI application rule.
Clever. And it can handle multiple CIs in one sentence.
Yep, using things called product types. It essentially allows the CI dimension to itself contain multiple independent pieces of CI content. So you could have Ames, the former spy who lives in Iowa, and both the former spy and who lives in Iowa would be separate CIs packed into the meaning.
Okay, and this isn't just an English thing. The source looks abroad too.
Definitely. Testing the theory cross-linguistically is vital. Japanese honorifics are a good case.
How do they work?
Certain verb forms in Japanese add a layer of meaning about the speaker's respect towards the person being talked about, the subject or object. This respectful attitude is separate from the main action of the verb, and crucially, it projects like a CI. It doesn't easily get embedded or negated away.
So, respect as a CI. Interesting. What else?
German conjunctive I. It's a subjunctive mood often used in reported speech. He said that he say ill, using the subjunctive sei.
And what does that add?
It can add a CI that the speaker is not committed to the truth of the reported statement. So the main point is, he said X, but the CI is, and I, the speaker, am neutral or skeptical about X. This non-commitment also projects independently, even if the main reporting verb might have its own presuppositions. It shows different dimensions at play.
Wow. Okay, after diving this deep into CI's multidimensional meaning projection, why does this matter to, someone just listening and talking every day?
Well, it fundamentally changes how you might think about communication. It shows that language isn't just about stating facts plainly. We are constantly, conventionally, adding these extra layers, our attitudes, background info, source marking, separate from the main point.
So understanding CIs makes you a more perceptive listener. You start noticing these subtle but committed meanings hiding in plain sight.
Exactly. You can spot how speakers are framing things, what attitudes they're injecting, what background they're assuming or asserting via these CIs. It sharpens your analytical skills for everyday conversations, political speech, advertising, you name it.
It makes you maybe more aware of what you're doing when you choose certain words.
Hopefully. And technically, it gives linguists and philosophers a robust way to analyze meanings that just don't fit the standard models of assertion or presupposition. It gives the concept real explanatory bite.
That was a fantastic deep dive. We really unpacked how conventional implicatures work tied to words, structures like appositives or expressives, adding speaker-committed commentary in a separate dimension.
And how they stubbornly project, resisting negation and embedding, showing up across different languages. It really points to a fundamental aspect of how meaning is structured.
It reveals this incredible richness and complexity right under the surface of everyday talk.
Layers upon layers.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If CIs are this systematic way of adding secondary meanings, what other subtle, perhaps less conventional ways are we constantly shaping meaning beyond the literal words? What are you communicating implicitly right now beyond your main point?
Something to listen for. There's always more to uncover.